So, last class we are discussing about an important problem, that addition of two 16-bit numbers with 16-bit sum. One way to solve it by using LHLD and SHLD instruction, another without using this. I think without using LHLD instruction is comparatively easier as compared to using LHLD and SHLD. So, from the complexity means the, if you say the easiness of the problem, that can be solved without using SHLD and LHLD. But as far as the space complexity is concerned, I think this is easier, because with fewer number of instruction we could add a 16-bit numbers with another 16-bit number, and the result is available in another, in the form of another 16-bit number, is not it? So, here the actually the solution is comparatively easier, but we are learning how efficiently we can write the program. So, here efficiently means time may not be saved, but space is certainly saved, because the number of instructions required to solve this problem is very less, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But almost all these instructions are unique, are a new type of instructions, like LHLD 8501. What is the meaning of this? The content of memory location 8501 will be loaded into register L. Remember, it is not do not confuse with the LXI instruction. In LXI, that is the data, but in LHLD this is the address, and address means it referring to a memory location which stores an 8-bit data. Is it clear? So, if you already you have seen LXI H, suppose if you write 8501 H, what is the meaning of this? L value will contain 01 and H will contain 85 if you write LXI, but in LHLD the content of 8501 is stored in L. Okay. Similarly, the content of 8502 will be stored in H, or we can say in other words that the address which is specified in the instruction, it is referring to a memory location address whose content will be loaded into the lower order register, that is L, and higher order register will store the next memory location which is by default present in the instruction. Okay. So, 8501 means in this example it is referring to memory locations, one is 8501, another is 8502, it is okay. Now, HL register is loaded with two data values, for example 8500 suppose containing XX or any number, any 8-bit hexadecimal number, and 8502 is containing YY, another 8-bit hexadecimal number, is it okay. So, now HL is having some 16-bit value that we could load into register pair HL. What is the meaning of exchange XCHG? It is clearly 1 byte instruction, because neither we are specifying an 8-bit data or address, nor we are specifying any 16-bit data or address. Therefore, it is 1 byte instruction. Okay. So, if it is a 1 byte instruction, its function is whatever value is there in HL, that will be stored in D, and D contents will be stored in HL, or swapping. That is why the exchange, though it is 1 byte, it will take more number of memory cycles to execute, or more number of clock cycles are required to execute, because the swapping operation is not that easy. If I tell you to swap between two variables A and B, then what you have to do? You cannot directly write A equal to B and B equal to A, you cannot write, the result will be wrong. Therefore, you have to take the help of another variable. So, for swapping we have to write 3 instructions. So, that is why here in one instruction we are able to perform, but at the cost of more number of clock cycles. But as per our rule, if it is a 1 byte instruction, how many clock cycles should take? 4 clock cycles, because the first byte always will take 4 clock cycles, it will not take 4, rather it will take around 10 to 13 clock cycles, because of the swapping operation. That is why I told you this program may not be time efficient, but certainly this program is space efficient, because it will occupy only 1 byte space exchange. Is it okay? So, now whatever value we had stored in HL, that is available in D. Now, I can freshly I can load a 16-bit a new data to HL, because HL content already have taken a copy into D. Okay. So, LHLD 8503 means 8503 content will be loaded into L. If the L value is modified, I do not have any problem, because I have taken a copy in D E. Then H content will store, H register will store 8504. Am I clear? So, now HL will be loaded with another 16-bit data stored starting at memory location 8503 and the next memory location, that is 8504, and the previous data is available in D. Because of the DADD, what is the meaning of this? If I write add B, what is the meaning of this? That accumulator is implicitly present. Accumulator content is added with register B content and the result is stored in accumulator. But here HL will serve as an accumulator for 16-bit addition. So, HL content whatever it is data is available, that is added with D content and the result will be stored in HL. So, this is the second function of HL, that is the second special role of the HL register pair. What is the first special role? It always indicates the register M, which is a memory location pointed by HL register pair. That is one unique role of the HL register pair. Now, we got the second unique role of the HL register pair. It is serving as an accumulator whenever 16-bit addition operation is taking place. Therefore, HL plus D both will be added correspondingly, and that means one 16-bit data will be added with another 16-bit data and the result will be stored in HL. And this HL register content I am interested to store in two consecutive memory location starting from 8505. So, just write SHLD, that means store the content of register pair HL. D stands for direct, this is how we can pronounce. So, A stands for store, HL is the register pair and D stands for direct. Direct means it follows the direct addressing, and once it is following direct addressing, the memory location address should be specified in the instruction. Therefore, store HL content direct in the memory location starting from 8505, and we need two locations. So, by default the next consecutive location is 8506. Is it okay? So, now you can see that the result which was in HL register pair, that will be available in two consecutive memory location 8505 and 8506. Now, halt. Now, you can try the same problem without using LHLD and SHLD. The only thing is that individually each register you have to access and store 8-bit data. The program will be somewhat lengthier, but certainly that can be time efficient. So, here the trade off comes, whether we will go for saving the time or you should go for saving the space, and both are important to us, because if you take the small scale applications, the memory should be memory is usually small in terms of kilobytes. So, many microprocessor based systems are there where their RAM size in terms of kilobyte, right. But if you see the latest computer systems, I think the RAMs are available in terms of gigabyte. Okay. So, this is one problem. Similarly, I gave just an assignment that solve the same problem without using LHLD and SHLD. So, let us take another problem. So, here the problem is decimal addition of two 8-bit numbers with 16-bit sum. 16-bit sum is clear, but what do we mean by the decimal addition? See, whenever you store any data item either in memory location or in the register, it is stored in the hexadecimal form, but we are interested to store in decimal form. So, what to do, what operation should be done to find the data in decimal form? For example, I want to store 1010. What is the value in hexadecimal? It is A, but I want to store its decimal value. How to get it? You have to add 6. So, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. So, your decimal data is 1, 0, is not it, right. So, again the same problem can be solved using instruction where the automatically we can get the decimal value, or if you do not want to use the decimal instruction, you can also do by adding 6. So, okay. So, the again here we are using only one instruction, that is DA, that is called decimal adjust accumulator. So, except this instruction, the meaning of all other instructions are clear, that we have already discussed in some previous class. Okay. So, only one instruction, extra instruction added in this program, that is DAA, that is available in 8085, that is decimal adjust accumulator. Even you are doing the hexadecimal addition or binary addition, automatically it will adjust to the decimal value. Okay. So, LXI H F050 and M means here F050, which will be available in the accumulator, is it clear? Then move immediate B00, we are initializing a register to 00 for some purpose. Then INSH means F051, then RM, accumulator storing the content of F050, and F050 content will be added with F051 and the result will be available in accumulator, but the result in hexadecimal form. So, to make it decimal, you can use the instruction DA, automatically it will be adjusted to the decimal, or in other words a 6 number 6 will be added to the hexadecimal data to get the decimal value. Then jump on no carry level 1 in the same way, because we want to keep track how many carries are generated. If the carry is generated, increment the register B, and if the carry is not generated, go and store the result accumulator value, and the next accumulator content, that is B will be containing 0 and the 0 will be stored into the memory location F0. Last class same thing, that if the carry is generated, store carry as well as the result, and if the carry is not generated, store the result along with the value 0, meaning is that there is no carry generated. Is it okay? So, this is another problem, and whatever the problems we are discussing here, same thing you can do in the laboratory class. Along with the assignments I have given, these are all applicable to the laboratory class also. Is it the problem is clear? Shift a 16-bit number left by 1 bit. A 16-bit number is given and you have to shift 1 bit position left, or you can say suppose the number is, okay, so 16-bit number is given and you shift it left once. So, this 0 will go to this place like this. So, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 and 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, then another 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. Is it okay? So, the final data will be 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. So, what was the previous data? So, this is 8, this is A, this is 1, 8. After shifting 1 bit left position, you will get 1, 4, 3, 1. A 16-bit number is given to you and you have to shift left 1 bit position, and after that if you find this value, you will get 1, 4, 3, 1. Okay. So, what is the program? Is it okay? Is this program is going to work? Is this program is the solution for this problem? Yes. So, here what is the solution? How the solution is solving this problem? If you add the number, actually if you write a DADH, the what is the meaning? HL is by default present in the instruction, as I told you in the previous example. So, if you are writing H here, that means you are adding the HL content with the HL content, and the result is all stored in HL. And if you add 2 times, it is the number is shifted once left side. This is one way of solving the problem. What are the other ways? In some classes we have solved this type of instructions, that is rotate accumulator left. So, this will also work. You can use RL or you can use RLC. Is there any other way? This is one way, this is the second way. Is there any other way to solve the same problem? You think it how you can do this. Okay. So, these are the 2 basic ways to solve this problem. Another problem. So, find out the largest of 2 numbers or maximum of 2 numbers. 2 numbers are given to you and you have to find out the maximum one. So, the program is yes. So, will this program will work? Find out the largest of 2 numbers. What is the logic behind this? So, LXI H8050, is it understood? HL will be loaded with the value 8050, and memory to accumulator means the content of 8050 will be available in the accumulator. INSH, now we got 8051, then compare M. So, if I write compare M, what is the meaning of this instruction? So, accumulator content will be compared with the memory content, and whenever the comparison takes place, either you are comparing for equality or you are comparing for less than or you are comparing for greater than, right. So, if accumulator content is greater than memory, so every comparison instruction is basically a subtraction operation, and which one will be subtracted from where? The content of memory location will be subtracted from the accumulator, and if the accumulator is a bigger number, the carry will be generated or not? Carry will not be generated. And if the accumulator content is equal to memory content, 0 flag will be set to 1, and if accumulator content is less than M, the borrow flag will be set to 1, and we do not have any borrow flag. So, carry flag will be set to 1. So, whenever the you can know that when the carry flag is set, the accumulator is lesser than memory location content, right. So, LXI H8050 memory content to accumulator, then INSH. When you compare A is less than M, then carry flag will be set to 1, and if the carry is generated, then which is bigger? Memory content is bigger, that is the largest. So, that will be available in the accumulator, and store the accumulator value, the largest value in the memory location 8052. Is it okay? Suppose in the same problem, if I ask find out the smallest of 2 numbers. So, what changes are necessary? Where I should change? In the place of jump no carry, if I write jump on carry, the smallest will be stored. Okay, this is a somewhat difficult example I am giving, try it, otherwise we will solve in the next class. Find out square of 10 decimal numbers. Okay. So, find out square of 10 decimal numbers are given to you, and you have to find out square of each decimal number and store in another memory location. Okay. Okay, let us first solve it for 5 decimal numbers, not 10, 5 decimal numbers. And another example. Okay, so, convert temperature from Fahrenheit to centigrade. I think everybody knows the equation F equal to in terms of Celsius. Only that equation you have to code in the assembly language and execute whether the results are coming correctly or not. And last example, a number of numbers are given in the memory location, you have to check whether the numbers are even or odd. I think this is comparatively a simpler example. Okay. So, try to solve all these problems in the laboratory class and check whether the results are coming correctly or not. So, let us go to the important again another important topic where we are left, stack and subroutine. I think stack part we have discussed, but the subroutine part we have not discussed. So, So, this definition same as your high level languages. Whenever you want to define a subroutine in a program, and if you find that a group of instructions are repeated in the program, that you can define once by giving a name which you call the subroutine name, and as and when it is required in your program, you can call by that name. And usually in assembly language program, that name, the subroutine name refers to a 16-bit memory location address, and that you can call by using the instruction call, and whenever the subroutine execution is over, you can use instruction return, so that the control will come back where the execution was diverted. Or to illustrate it, for example, this is your main program, right. This is your main program. These are the set of assembly language instructions, and you have written a call instruction 16-bit address. This 16-bit address is a memory location where your first instruction of the subroutine is stored. Then subsequent instructions like this, and the last instruction of the subroutine will be RET, return. Okay. And this is called unconditional call and unconditional return. Here we are not testing any condition. Call means the control must be diverted to the subroutine, and whenever the subroutine execution is over, so because of this unconditional return instruction, the control will come back to which point? It has to come back to exactly the next following instruction of the call instruction. It will not go back to the call instruction. Here the control is diverted to this 16-bit address, and after execution of the subroutine, because of the return instruction. So, do not forget to give the return instruction. Okay. So, once the return instruction is encountered, the control will come back to the next following instruction. Okay. So, it is almost like your high level language subroutines or functions, but here only one constant, as I told you, the number of registers are limited. And for example, you have used many registers before the call instruction, and try to avoid those registers inside the subroutine. And if at all you want to use the same registers in the subroutine which is having a different function, different purpose, that you can push into the stack. Am I clear? So, before pushing, after pushing all the register values, or we call the states, into the stack, then go for executing the subroutine. Otherwise, what will happen? The registers values which are already available before the call instruction, they will be carried forward to the inside the subroutine, where the result may be erroneous. But sometimes what happens, some registers we are using both for the main program and subroutine intentionally, because of the applications or requirement of the program. There you do not have to push into the stack. If the same register is used and you want that the modified value will be useful for the subroutine, then you can make use of those registers without pushing them into the stack. Am I clear? And if we are exclusively use the registers for different purposes, then we have to push into the stack. Is it okay? So, these are the unconditional call instructions. Similarly, we can have conditional call instructions like colon carry, colon no carry, colon 0, colon not 0, and colon positive, colon negative, colon minus, and every each instruction will be followed by a 16-bit memory location address, which will serve as the starting address or the name of the subroutine, starting address of the subroutine. Similarly, you can use return on 0, return on not 0, and you can use several return instructions in your program, and you can call any number of subroutines in your program. There is no restriction, right. You can go for any number of nestings, levels of nestings in your subroutine, but the thing is that if you use more number of nesting, more depth nesting, the tracking the program is difficult to show the correctness of the program. You cannot track what which registers are storing what and how the results are moving. Therefore, you have to check whenever you use the subroutine, you have to check maximum number of levels, try to use 3 or 4, not more than that. but theoretically there is no limit. So, you can use any number of levels of nesting while executing the subroutine. Then what are the different types of subroutines? Type of subroutines in 8085. So, first type of subroutine is multiple call subroutines. What is the multiple call subroutines? We are calling the same subroutine multiple times. Is it okay? So, for example, call 8050, as I told you, there should be a system bit address specified in the instruction. So, call 8050 means the control will be transferred to memory location address 8050, which is basically your subroutine, and you have stored some of the instructions which is defined within the subroutine, or we call the definition of the subroutine, right. So, once we encounter the return instruction, so that is the last address you can say 8056. So, here the control will return back to the next memory location, that is 800123 8004, right. So, internally what happens, this 8004 will be automatically stored into the stack, saved in the stack, and the moment you call back, again program counter will be loaded with 8004. Remember, unless until you store the memory location address in PC, the program execution cannot take place. So, program counter initially will hold the address 8001 whenever call instruction is to be executed, and the moment call instruction is executed, the 8004 value will be saved into the stack, and program counter will contain how much? It will contain 8050, right. From 8050 the execution will begin, and whenever the return instruction is encountered, the program counter content will be modified to 8004, so that the execution can resume from the memory location 8004. So, here main thing is that you have to track what should be the value of program counter and what should be the value of stack pointer, right. So, similarly, after executing few instructions, again you needed the same subroutine in different part of the program, that is called 8050, same thing happens, that suppose this is 8080, sorry, you cannot use the same address as the main program and same address as subroutine. For example, it is 20, then this will be 21, 22, 23. So, what should be the program counter value? When the program counter value is 8023, it must be saved into the stack, and after executing the subroutine, we should get back 8023 from the stack and again resume the execution, so that the main program will be completed. And what is the last instruction of the main program? HLT, halt. See, the last instruction of the main program is HLT, whereas the last instruction of the subroutine is return. So, this is called multiple call subroutines, because you can call the same subroutine multiple times in the main program. Therefore, it is coming under multiple call subroutines. Similarly, what is nested subroutine? So, this is called nested subroutine. So, here this is the main program and subroutine 1, subroutine 2. So, in the main program, let us assume that we start writing the program, or the call instruction is available in the memory location address 8050, and a call 8150 means 8150 is the address of the first subroutine, that is subroutine 1. Now, whenever this call instruction is executed, control will be transferred to 8150. Then after executing, after few instructions, it found that there is another call instruction, and it is calling another subroutine which is whose address is 8250, and whenever the return instruction is encountered, the control will not come back to the main program. If it is coming to the main program, then that is your first category of subroutines, and if it is coming to subroutine 1, then it will resume the execution from this, that is 8093 onwards, sorry 8193 onwards, until it encounters a return instruction. And once a return instruction is encountered, control will come back to the main program, from where the main program will resume its execution. Is it okay? And why it is called nesting? We are calling subroutine within the main program. We are calling a subroutine with another subroutine, that is subroutine 2 is called within the subroutine 1, and subroutine 1 is being called by the main program. Similarly, you can also use another call instruction in subroutine 2 to call subroutine 3, and you can also use another call instruction in subroutine 3 to call subroutine 4. And there is no limit theoretically, only limit is that until all the memory locations are exhausted or until all the registers are exhausted. That is the only limitation theoretically, but practically it is preferable to use maximum 2 or 3 levels of nesting, because whenever the memory locations are exhaustively used, how to define the subroutine? And total memory capacity is 64 kilobyte. Out of that, many locations are reserved for ROM, PROM, EPROM, etc. Only few locations are reserved for the RAM. Therefore, whenever you use the nested subroutines, you have to be very careful, unless until it is highly demanded by the applications. So, can you guess what should be the applications of a nested subroutines? Where the nested subroutines is very important. Without that, it is not achievable. As already have told you, microprocessor operates in terms of microseconds, but human eyes are designed by God to observe only in terms of seconds. So, to convert this microsecond process to second, you have to have sufficient delay, and to introduce delay, you can use as number of nesting as possible, so that with fewer instruction you can get more delay. That we shall see in the next class, how you can use the nested subroutines most frequently to get more delay. In fact, you can go up to in terms of minutes and hours if your nesting is okay. Otherwise, what you have to do? You have to write a large program to introduce a delay in terms of second. But we can get a 1 minute delay by nesting a few number of instructions. So, that is the, I think, biggest applications of the implementing the delay routines. And why the delay routines are required? Because we want to see something displayed on the screen in terms of seconds, but microprocessor will display it in terms of microsecond. And if you take the latest microprocessors, it will display in the terms of nanosecond, which you can never see how it is moving. Therefore, delay is important, and more delay can be achieved with a more number of more levels of nesting. Am I clear? So, that is an important applications of the nested subroutines. Otherwise, very rarely 2 level and 3 level is enough, 3 levels of nesting is enough to solve any complex problems in the day to day life, as far as the common applications are concerned. Okay, so, the last one is, so multiple ending subroutines. As the name suggests, you can return the control based upon the flag condition, 0 flag condition, carry flag condition, or sign flag condition. You can return before completing the subroutine. Before completing the execution of the entire subroutine, you can return the control to the main program, right. So, you can use return on 0, return on carry, return on or unconditional return in your program in the subroutine. Then one assignment just I am giving, what is the relation between stack and subroutines? This is an assignment, you can prepare at least 5 points, differentiate between or what is the relation between stack and subroutine, whether stacks are used for implementing subroutine or subroutines are used for implementing the stack, like that. Okay. So, try to establish how the stacks are useful and how the stacks are connected to the subroutines, as far as the microprocessor is concerned. Okay. As far as the 8085 microprocessor is concerned. Okay. So, next class we shall see how to utilize the stack and subroutines to introduce the delay in observing the displaying the results or printing some text in the printer or making the data available in the output devices.